Hi, this is Eddy Tate, and you're listening to the Cork Chroma podcast. In today's episode, Hilary and I landed on the topic of fashion and what it means to express yourself through clothing. We talked about why people dress up, how clothing makes you feel, and how fashion can be a tool to connect with others. We'll join the conversation now where Hilary is talking about using self-expression as a way to exercise her creativity.
I haven't been very social in the last few months, but I've had 2 or 3 dates with people. I went to a party, a friend's 50th birthday a couple weekends ago, and it does make it a little more special. I found myself just putting a little more thought into what I was going to wear, how I wanted to look, how I wanted to feel, and what clothes were going to make me feel that way. I have these pair of boots. I've written about it for the blog before that I made.
Love them.
Oh, I love those. I took a pair of just H&M like black boots that I love and that are super comfortable, and E6600, that super adhesive glue. And just over the course of, I think, of a week or 2, just glued hundreds of tiny and big, beautiful sequins and gemstones all over them, and googly eyes, so that when I walk, the googly eyes kind of like make these little like noises. And honestly, I made them for a Lady Gaga concert because I love Lady Gaga. And part of what I love about going to see her live is making an outfit. I still wear them on occasions where I just want to feel a certain way, or occasions where I really want to talk to people and feel confident talking to them. So I wore those boots to this party. I was going to be someone at this party that didn't really know tons of people. It was a good friend of mine who was a neighbor, but I didn't know tons of her friends. And I thought, if I wear these, I know I'll have something to talk about with people, because sort of like what you were saying before, I think kind of re-entering social atmosphere, just not being around people for so long, and then all of a sudden kind of injecting yourself back into a party after so long. So they made me feel really comfortable, and people do, they comment on them. And then when you say, oh, I made them, then it just creates this connection, and you can explain how anyone can make them. And it was just, I think that's such a cool thing about being able to express yourself through fashion or through things that you make and then wear, because it just is a portal for other people to connect and have a conversation with you. And I know you've spoken about that before too.
Yes.
But your mom's really fashionable. And has she always been like that? Is that where you get your...
Definitely. She's a great influence. She's so amazing. And from when I can remember, and she always made her own clothes. So from what I remember as a very young girl, her making these amazing dresses to wear to parties, just so funny, very expressive. And I feel like amongst her friends, she was always a bit wild and kind of known for being probably a very similar personality to who I've grown up to be. But I remember when I was like early teens and just rebelling against wanting to dress up. I was kind of a tomboy in a sense. We lived on a yacht, which is another conversation, but we were just always around the marina, and I was with my twin brother and just always in like baggy t-shirts and not caring what I looked like really. And I remember my mum bought me like some nice tops, and she'd really want me to wear them when we went out for dinner or something. And I just always remember feeling uncomfortable in them. It must have been late high school. Yeah, I started experimenting a bit more with fashion. There's a few pivotal moments there where for my year 10 semi-formal, when you have that fancy dinner at high school, and I was always just a bit silly. And I think that was my way of not wanting to be too try hard or not really thinking of myself as like really pretty or anything. So I'd go a bit silly or funny or a bit wild. I was still probably attracting that attention though, but sometimes not really realizing it. But I found this incredible yellow dress in an op shop. I think full length, comes in at the waist. It's like fitted at the top, comes in at the waist, and then like goes out the sides at the bottom. It's like a canary yellow satin, shiny satin with these feather sort of stitch all over it. And then the sleeves are fitted, and then they bell out to like massive flares. And then there's yellow fluff around the sleeves all around, like, you know, that thin, that narrow, real feathers, that fluff, and that's around the hem. And then it has a hood with feathers around it, and it's pointy.
What?
And then it has buttons, covered buttons, all the way down to the waist. It is the craziest dress, and it's so weird. And I wore that, and Mum put little yellow flowers in my hair.
Amazing.
Amy Mack, who now works at Cork Chroma and was in a year above me, she told me later that like circled the school and people were talking about it, and I didn't realise. And no one really commented in my year. Like, I think they were all just like, what the hell?
So do you think at that time, you mentioned you were not trying to be pretty but really just trying to make a statement. Do you think, where's the line between dressing outrageously and not taking the piss out of yourself? Not that that's what you were trying to do, but like, because you do dress quite outrageously. We did a photo shoot last year for our website photos, and Eddy was our stylist. You brought all your clothes. We were so lucky to be able to use your clothes for that shoot because it was so fun and so many outrageous pieces. I'm thinking specifically of the lobsters on the shoes. And where's the line for you? How do you decide what's artistic and then what's too far, or is anything too far?
I don't know about anything too far, but I heard Lady Gaga speak about this, that you kind of trying to outdo yourself every time, and it becomes quite exhausting. And then there's actually a bit of anxiety around that because people are now waiting for what I'm going to wear. And now, am I dressing for me? Am I dressing for others? In the last couple of years, I've thought so much about all these things, like, what does it say about me? Am I just an attention seeker? You know, when I talk to friends, they say, absolutely not. Like, it's just who you are. It's the way you express yourself. And that's how I do feel about it. But I've gone in these little circles to try and figure it out myself. Like, what am I trying to be? Who am I? Who am I really? What am I trying to impress? What's too far? I don't know. I mean, I think the furthest that I could explain is for Mardi Gras a couple of years ago, wearing crabs, plastic crabs that squeaked on my boobs and one down on my front and nothing else really. That's probably as far as I went. And I had this amazing headpiece that had trailing tinsel tentacles. That was really fun. That was kind of pivotal. Rebellion, I feel like me, like, I think it's almost a challenge, and then it helps me accept myself a little bit more, you know, be okay with my body. I think as well, there's an element of wanting to give back to people. People come up and they're like, oh, it's amazing that you have the confidence to do that. I get that all the time, and I think I really dismissed that and just was like, anyone can do it, just do it. I realize that it kind of has a ripple effect on people. I like that. I don't feel like it's for the attention, but it's more that I can show other people that it's okay. Forget it. Like, don't be so worried.
It's definitely inspiring. You've inspired so many people through the way that you express yourself through your fashion. I had a couple of thoughts as you were just talking there. The first is that I just saw that quote by Beyonce the other day where she was explaining how she had performance anxiety. And so that's why she invented her stage persona, Sasha Fierce, so that she could have that buffer between how she really felt and what she was putting out there. I thought that was really interesting. You know, what persona, what energy are you choosing to take on so that you can put something out there? Other thing that I wanted to ask you about it was, it's so fun to wear the clothes, but do you think part of the fun is just making them as well? Because you make you don't usually find yellow canary birdie dresses like that. From what I know, you seem to make a lot of your stuff yourself. So is that like part of it? And then just wearing it is like the cherry on top? Or is it always about the day you're going to wear it, do you think?
Most of my outfits, especially being busy, it was always helpful to have an event to go to. There would be a theme or an idea that I'd be working towards for that. But that is a huge part. Actually making the outfit is so much fun. Oh my gosh, it would not be the same if I just went to an amazing vintage shop and bought an amazing dress. That would be still fun. But yeah, designing and I'm really into headwear and even right down to the shoes and I love themes, whether it's colors or like one of the things that I've been wanting to make. I've got this swan that I think is meant to be like a little pot holder. So it's like kind of this plastic swan, and it's got velour, like velvet dust all over it. And it's only, 2-hand widths, I'm not sure, quite small. But I want to put that on my head, and I want white flowers, fake flowers coming out of it. And then I want a kind of a swan dress, like I want something black all over. And so that's just an idea for an outfit that I will make, and then eventually I'll find somewhere to wear it. But now that it's like the photo shoot, I have enough different bits of clothing now that I can pull really different looks together each time, which is really fun. I remember when I was going to Alice Springs, for some reason this memory came to mind just now. We went to Alice Springs for my mum's 60th for the Beanie Festival. It was all about dressing up. So my mum and my sister, and even my dad, he was wearing some shirts that I'd made him out of like wild fabrics. We had so much fun dressing up. And I love going to fashion parades because they're the best excuse to go a bit outrageous. I really wanted a bird for my head. And maybe this is a visualization thing, because I imagined a black crow or something. I had all this black outfit. I had a skirt that I'd bought from some designers I worked for in Montreal, and it had human hair on it. It was a black long skirt that's kind of made out of lace. And then it had it's almost could have even been like tails, but these whole sections of long hair that would just fall to the ground. And so it's a little bit dark, like I think a bit Halloweeny or witchy or something. And then this black velvet top. And I found a bird. So I went to one of the homeware shops, and it's this amazing silver parrot that's life-size, covered in silver foil, so really shiny. And I just wrapped that onto a headband and completed my outfit. So I think there's a lot of things like that where I'll visualize something and then I manage to come across it or find it.
Yeah, I think that, like you were mentioning earlier, how you like to have an event or a reason, and then you come up with the outfit for it based on the theme or based on the event. And I find that too, it's always easier to create something when there's purpose, when there's something that's driving you forward, and also like a deadline. It kind of puts a little bit of healthy pressure on the project that sort of, it's like, can I pull this off?
And it's always last minute. It's so last minute. But talking about purpose made me think as well, day-to-day dressing, that purpose of expressing how you're currently feeling or how you want to feel, I use that a lot. And days when I'm feeling a bit like, I'll wear black or something like power. I'll wear something that makes me feel a bit powerful, and then I'll kind of step into that. And sometimes even if I'm feeling a bit like annoyed or something, I'll just wear something darker. And then other days, wanting to step into something brighter, I'll wear full on. But you need to be ready for the feedback, like how people are going to receive it, because they probably will talk to you about it, which takes energy. I also realized how much energy that was taking from me.
That's such a great point. I think, you're inspiring yourself, obviously, but it's great that you're aware that you're serving as inspiration to others. Mm-hmm. There's like a bit of responsibility, I guess, that comes with that, because you're putting out this energy that's like, look at this, look at me, not in a needy way, but just like in an artful way. Mm-hmm. And like you said, people are going to respond to that. It's almost like you're a walking piece of art, especially the way that you put things together and the way that you make things. It's always very sculptural. It's always really colorful. And sometimes there's a bit of a narrative to it, like you were mentioning with the bird outfit as well. Have you ever had any negative interactions based on how you've expressed yourself?
Not many, but I always think of this one, and it must be related to the mood that I was in at the time. But there's this pink dress that I have that's like fluoro. Again, it's comfortable, so I end up wearing it quite often. And it's kind of a tent style, finishes above the knee, sleeveless. And I love wearing it with this necklace that I've got that's pink and kind of embroidered. But it's only one piece that I have to throw on, and I feel like it makes a statement enough. But I wore it to Aldi in Brisbane, and I remember this older man, who I reckon was in his 50s, and I'm just in Aldi doing my shopping, and he just comes around the corner and he's like, oh, and he puts his hands up in front of his face like he's trying to hide his eyes. And he says, oh, that's so bright. I got this idea that it was offensive to him how bright my dress was. And it was almost like, how dare you be so I don't know. You know, sometimes when people react funny, I kind of like laugh it off. Like I'm like, haha, yeah, you know, like it's pretty bright, isn't it? And then he just went on a bit further and he's like, yeah, you need to wear sunglasses or something. Like it just, it pushed his buttons a little bit, or like pushed him, which kind of annoyed me, but it's also what I kind of like.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely pushing boundaries for people of what they believe is possible. I mean, I'm speaking really generally, and I grew up in the suburbs in America, so this is not the case everywhere, obviously. Like where I grew up and where I went to uni, clothing was very much like a status symbol, like what kind of brands you could wear and what you could afford and what was cool. Like as I got older, it sort of started to just feel like everyone was just trying to fit into a certain acceptable box. And you'd kind of like push the boundaries to the edge of the box if you could, or if you wanted to try, but you still wanted to stay within the realm of like what was acceptable. And one thing I really noticed when I moved to Australia was that generally speaking, women wear a lot more dresses here. This is just sort of a random observation, especially in Brisbane. It's so hot here, which has got to be probably a big part of it. People really like to dress themselves and present themselves in a more put together way than Americans. Like when I first got here, I remember running one night late to Woolies just to grab something from the grocery store. And I just ran inside in like my pajama pants and my t-shirt or whatever I was, you know, just daggy clothes that I was wearing. And kind of coming back out to the car and saying to BJ, my husband, I don't think people do that here. You know, I don't think that's really what people do. Whereas where we lived, it was, you know, people run in to shops in their sweatpants. I mean, legit pajama pants. You know, that's just one thing that I noticed, that people really kind of express themselves through clothing a little bit more here anyway, and have a little bit more of individual style anyway. It seems more acceptable to just be a little more outrageous here than where I grew up, and even where I lived in California. It's really interesting. I think it's wonderful, especially when you can push that boundary for somebody else to show what's possible.
Yeah, I have a lot of older women too who come up to me and they'll go, oh, I used to wear something, or I just wish I could wear that. And I think older women, maybe they'll come up to me because they have the confidence to come up to me. Often it's older women or middle-aged women. I remember one lady was saying she's got this top and it's really colourful and she'd love to bring it out and wear it. And I had this conversation with her. I was like, do it. That's wonderful. Like, express yourself, get that top out. And she'd sort of had this realization that she'd moved into either it was workwear or just wearing the same thing over and over. And I think that's showed how powerful it is. Like, she was remembering how she would feel when she would wear something colourful, but it was a confidence thing. Can't really relate to that necessarily, but I think there really is a bit of confidence to it, and probably because people might look at you. And I've had friends and different people say that, like, people will look at you, and that can be tough for many people. Yeah. Avoid that at all costs.
I mean, it takes confidence to express yourself in any medium, right? But like, fashion is such an outward and obvious thing, you know, like when I make art or when I make digital painting or something, I mean, I put it out there on my Instagram, but it's not like I'm wearing it. Well, I did make some hoodies and put it on my sweatshirt. But, you know, it's not like I'm out there wearing it for the world to look at. So I do think fashion is like one of the boldest ways you can express yourself. And I think you hit on something. You've never really had a typical job. So you've never really had to fit in like a corporate environment. And maybe that's a big part of it too. I was just driving around the city yesterday. We were running some errands for work. Just looking around in the city, you know, so much dark clothing, so much of sort of the same flat shoes and the same dark jackets and the same pencil skirts. And I mean, don't get me wrong, people looked fabulous and really well put together. But I did wonder that. I was like, what would you wear if you just didn't have to wear that? Because you get used to wearing these sort of clothes all week. Then on the weekends, it feels like a much bigger jump to wear a canary dress. You know, so I wonder if that's just like one other way that we're sort of kept from expressing ourselves, just because of the way that the society's been constructed and the way that we've been conditioned to believe we have to be. And also the way that we're conditioned to, you know, it's not always the best thing to stand out in that type of environment.
There is a protocol And yet why is it not about color? But is it because it does take attention away? Like if someone's wearing a canary dress in their cubicle, everyone's going to be looking. But then if everyone was doing it, maybe it wouldn't be so surprising. Like if everyone's just expressing who they are, looks more professional, doesn't it? It's about being
more professional, and you're representing something bigger than just you. So I mean, that's the other thing. You're not just representing yourself, you're representing the company you work for.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
right.
like, there's nothing wrong with that either. I know that some people love that. They feel powerful, and they, that's all good. More power to however everyone wants to express themselves. But I just wonder, like, when you're trying to fit in somewhere, and I know this because I've done it myself before. I almost spent like most of my life just trying to find the clothes that I would like be cool or feel cool or somehow. And it's like, because you're not actually listening to yourself, like you'll never get there. You never feel cool because you're never feeling like yourself. Also, you're never going to feel cool when you're wearing ultra low rise jeans. That was the cool. That was the cool look when I was in junior high and high school.
Those low rise, no, they did not work for me. But I tried it.
I don't think they worked for very many people. I don't think they did.
No. Touching on that was another pivotal moment, talking about when, dressing became important, when I found my style. When I was 18, I went to my first festival, Big Day Out in Brisbane. Still, I was finding my feed, and I was shopping at one of those cheap stores, because you can, with your little bit of money you have, you can get multiple outfits, and just not really knowing what to buy, or just buying whatever was in fast fashion at the time and wanting it to fit and work for you, like low cut jeans when it really doesn't. And at this festival, I remember looking over, and there was this group of people that were maybe a little bit gothic, indie, and that was so cool. And I just looked at their clothes, and I had this epiphany of, I can dress however I want, and I want to be cool. And what I was wearing that day was actually a pair of shorts that I'd made when I was studying fashion, and just a t-shirt, pretty toned down. And it was sort of this moment of, I'm not going to hold back. I'm just going to dress how I want to dress. That feels good. Like if you want to be cool, look at what you think's cool and just wear it.
Yeah. What else would you tell people, well, particularly people who don't have the skill to make their own or sew their own clothes? What's like a great starting point, do you think, of starting to express yourself more through your clothes?
Maybe even accessories might be a good start. Like a bag that's a little bit fun or bright. Earrings have become really big, or maybe it's just one shirt. I mean, people have different styles and they're drawn to different things, but I'd recommend going vintage shopping or going to alternate shops to find some pieces that speak to you, or even local designers as well, buying from small labels where you feel like it's a unique piece. So easy to find people these days, I find, through Instagram and stuff.
And I guess you don't even have to be able to sew. Like I've got earrings on today that I got from the markets at South Bank. And it's like these little toy dinosaurs. When I was at the mall the other day, a lady came up to me and said, "Oh, I just have to ask you where you got those. I have 3 boys and they would just love it if I had dinosaur earrings." And I took them out of my ears and I was like looking at it. And I said, "Actually, I've just been to Spotlight. They sell these little hoop rings. And then this is just like a little screw that she's just screwed down in and glued it in there." And I said, "You could just make them." And she said, "Oh, yeah, maybe I could get my dad to make them." And I was just thinking, I think anybody could make these. I think that's one thing that you do with fashion that's really cool, is like you take stuff that's not clothes and you turn them into accessories or clothes.
I want to wear this on my head or wear it somehow.
Yeah.
There's artists out there like Rachel Burke and other crafters that make it, they even go step by step how to make really simple things yourself. Like even start with a pair of pom-pom earrings or something, but then you get that taste of wearing something that you've made, which is a really amazing feeling.
Have you experienced that feeling before, wearing something you've made? Hilary and I had so much fun discussing fashion. I'm sure this topic will come up in future episodes. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and until next time, thanks for listening.